go. Am I ready? That's the question.
Always. Fuck. Am I going to get blown up or not?
Exactly. Okay, we're going to be live now any second. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I hope you can hear me okay. I hope you're having a great Tuesday so far. It is Tuesday, I think. I just lose track of the days. Welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time visiting, well, hello there. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate you spending your very valuable time at my tiny little corner of the internet. Thank you to all my new subs lately. My little L-plate ticker hasn't been able to keep up with you all. We're nearly at 400. I think I'm going to get off my L-plates before my birthday. So if you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you do so that I can get off these flippin' L-plates. Welcome, of course, to all my new subs. Please jump into the chat, say g'day. They're a very friendly bunch, and we have the ladies auxiliary there to keep everybody honest. So hello to everyone in chat. I will get to you in a second. One of our favourite friends is back today. It's Disco Stu, retired Australian Army Major Stuart McCarthy, dashing gentleman with a giant-sized heart for those with disabilities, the veteran community, and most recently Australia's Afghanistan mates who were looking at being left high and dry after risking their lives to work with us. So welcome back, Stuart. We are, as always, honoured to have you join us.
Morning, Lauren. Great to be back. Great to be with you and your followers. And yeah, I know you guys will be really interested in this stuff. Things are happening on the ground really quickly, and maybe because they've been happening too slowly for a long time, we can chat about that. But,
exactly.
Yeah, really keen to chat to you and maybe answer some questions that you guys might have.
Yeah, because I have questions. But to start off with, I'll just remind chat, we're not going to be talking about any names or places of names or locations or anything like that, because this is happening as we speak, and we don't want to put anybody in actual even more danger than what they're already in. So we'll just lay that down right now. Just everybody let me know in chat. Oh, Keely, someone let me know if you can hear Stuart okay. We've used the same setup as per usual. So in the chat, we had Nicole King. She can't stay, but she wanted to pop in and say hello. Stephen Webb's here. Rob Kent, good morning, as always. Now, Rob Kent had a question, but I'll save the questions for later if that's okay, Stuart. And we got Daz, Simon Powell, Woz is here. All the usual suspects are here. It's nice to see you all. Just somebody let me know that you can hear me and Stuart okay before we waffle on, and then you can find out later that you can't even hear us.
Erudite waffling.
Loud and clear, apparently. Okay, so Stuart, could you just fill us in on who these folk are that we're talking about, and what's happened here?
Yeah, definitely. So, as we all know, the Australian government, including the Defence Force, has been directly involved on the ground in Afghanistan for 20 years, for almost a continuous period. There was a period for about a year, going back into the early 2000s to where we pulled out, then we went back again. But during that time, pretty much everything that we did was very heavily reliant on local Afghans, and they come into a number of categories. One of the really important categories that people were already aware of is the interpreters.
Yep.
So these are people who either do translation of written documents or physically participate with whether they be military people or diplomats or whoever.
And that would have been very important for our job there, right? Without them.
Oh, absolutely crucial. So, and as I've been saying in a lot of my media interviews, the interpreters were literally going out on patrols with a lot of us in Afghanistan. A lot of them were injured and killed even. So that was really crucial. But there's a number of other ones as well, which have kind of haven't had a lot of prominence because there's not yet the public understanding. So we're talking things like people who were employed on aid projects in different parts of the country. So civilians who worked for non-government organisations, and they were involved in aid projects that were funded by organisations like AusAid.
Yeah.
And then a whole bunch of other people who were doing a lot of the different, just put your sort of, use your imagination and imagine that you're running a base in a foreign country.
Yep.
And you've got to have a whole bunch of local people doing all sorts of different work. And you've got these people are coming onto the base during the day, and they're going home at night.
And they're being seen doing that.
And they're being seen as they go to and fro. And then, of course, there's all of their families.
Yes.
Now, the reason this is so dangerous is because not only the Taliban, but mainly the Taliban and some of the other terrorist organisations, what's happening and what's been happening for a long time already is they've been going after these people, and their attitude is, look, if you worked for the Australian military, one of the other Western militaries, or if you had anything whatsoever to do with the Afghan government,
really,
basically what their take is, well, you're a traitor. You're a traitor to Afghanistan. You're worse than the infidel. You're working for the infidel. And the sort of language that they use in their propaganda is, you're a slave.
Oh dear.
And so some of the death threat letters that the Taliban uses very, very typically, they're written in Pashto usually, and they use very specific sort of semi-religious phrases, using their very distorted view of the Quran. But these are sort of language that they use. You're a slave to the Westerners, and we're going to come and kill you. And I know a lot of cases where people are already dead.
And they mean it too.
That's been for a long time.
Yeah, because
we can talk a bit more about sort of how we got to where we are.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like life under the Taliban wasn't good. That it wasn't good in the first place. So to become a sitting duck to them is terrifying. Like the reality must be horrendous.
So even during and a lot of your followers who either served in Afghanistan themselves or got friends and family who did, they'll know about this stuff. So even when we were still serving there during our military deployments, there were terrorist bombings of schools. There were all sorts of murders, probably better described as assassinations or executions. Really brutal, horrible, bloody stuff. Some of the bombings that were going on were young teenage kids that were recruited in the madrasas over in Pakistan, smuggled across the border. They had suicide bomb vests strapped to them and were told, here, go and blow up this person or blow up this aid worker, blow up this school.
Walk over
just
here.
Horrible stuff. And these are the types of people we're talking about. And this has been going on for a long time.
Exactly. So these folk are in genuine, and they have been this whole time. Like, how long has it been that since we've said we're going?
Well, here's the thing. So the main part of our Australian military presence in Afghanistan wound back in 2013. So, and if you look at the numbers, and this is just ADF I'm talking about here, and there's additional civilians on top of this, but we had, over 2 decades, we had almost 40,000 Australian Defence Force people served in Afghanistan, and some of them on multiple deployments. So, but as I said, this sort of wound up, the bulk of that wound up at about in 2013, although we've had a smaller presence still there since then. But in 2013, as our that main part of our military commitment wound back, the federal government introduced this humanitarian visa program that was supposed to be dedicated for exactly these people. But it's been a real basket case right from the very beginning. I was on my second deployment in 2013 when this program started, and we were this is how messed up it was. We were verbally told when this was being set up, you guys are not to provide any help with your interpreters or other staff who want to submit visa applications. You can't even help them fill out the paperwork.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Well, who knows? I mean, I can only speculate.
I can't even think of one good reason. Like, what are they presuming, that you guys are dodgy? You know, I mean,
well,
what?
I don't know. I don't know if there was some kind of political nod and a wink. Here, we're going to set up this thing that looks good, but we really don't care about it. But
it's going to be very
people.
difficult.
Make it as hard as possible.
Exactly.
But to explain why that was so important, right, is because imagine you're one of these interpreters or other staff and your family. You know you're in danger. I mean, I know at least one of my guys who I'd worked with on a previous deployment, and then he was working for the unit I was with in 2013. He came to me during this period. This is the guy I didn't know really well, but I knew of him.
Yeah.
And he was working with some of the other guys in our unit. He came to me one morning with one of my Aussie soldiers who he's working with, and my soldier said to me, hey boss, you need to listen to this, because this is what's going on. This guy, and this is one of the local interpreters who was going on and off base, and he was going home at night, coming back on base in the morning.
Yep.
He said, hey, last night I had the Taliban come to my house in the middle of the night, and one of my neighbours yelled out to me and told me. So my neighbour came over. We went on top of the house.
Bless them.
With our AK-47s, yelled out of them, piss off, or we're going to shoot you. And this was even while we were still there.
You were still there, so the risk has just increased, immeasurably.
And then I discovered this guy. I discovered a few months later, after we got home, that he actually got murdered.
Oh dear.
So I know people, and this goes right back.
Yeah.
Okay, this goes right back 8 years. But since then, the drama is that people who we knew and would be very happy to have vouched for, they've been sending these visa applications up through this process without the proper assistance that they need. And
exactly.
They go into this vetting process run by shiny bums in Canberra, who've got no idea of who these people were, what they did, no idea of the language issues
or the literacy,
cultural issues, and they've been red flagged for just ridiculous stuff, because the people in Canberra think, this guy had a 15th cousin who might have had an AK-47 in his backyard one time, so stuff him, he can stay there and die. This is the sort of logic.
We've all got cousins that we don't want to be associated with. What would happen in Canberra if we associated every politician with what their cousins have done?
Exactly. So they're in real danger, and so for the last sort of 7 or 8 years, a lot of these people have been on the run. They've been trying to get out. They've been bounced around through this ridiculous visa process. A lot more of them are dead. And right up until now, to get back to your original question though, so why is this important right now? So over the last 6 months, we know about, say, 3-ish months ago, the Western countries all said, okay, well, our final troop withdrawal, we're gonna finish up by September, but it's actually happening on the ground a lot more quickly.
Okay.
And then at the same time, we all knew, like any of your followers who were served in Afghanistan, we all know that, or we all knew that as soon as these announcements were made, the Taliban were going to kick into gear. And over the last 6 months, they've had what I would call an escalated insurgency campaign. It's really ramped up. This is where we've seen bombings, we've seen murders, all that sort of stuff. And over the last sort of month to 6 weeks, it's ramped up again, where they've launched a major offensive across the country.
Yes, they've been taking back places, haven't they? Yeah.
A lot of, I think something like 30 districts right across the country in the last month. And I could talk about that a lot more. I don't have time to go into detail, but they're making a lot of gains really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And at the political level, the Taliban has been saying things like, "Oh no, we want to be part of the democratic process, and we want to be peaceful, and come and play nice." But that's just blatant.
Yeah,
on
exactly.
The ground, their tactical commanders are taking over huge parts of the country, and they have every intention of going and conducting these reprisals, next
Yeah, of
level
course.
stuff.
Of
right
course,
across
because
the
I mean,
board.
there was a reason we were there in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're just very much angrier.
Yeah.
Now, so
And so
yeah, no,
to
keep
give you a
going.
bit of an idea of numbers, right? So
Yeah.
over that last 7 to 8 year period, to be fair, Australia has done the right thing by around 1,200 of these people and their families. They've been given visas, they've managed to get out to Australia, and they're safe. The problem is there's about that same figure again who've been bounced around through this ridiculous visa program and been stalled. And so I can't take credit for a lot of the legwork that really good people like Forsaken Fighters, Jason Skeins, I've been aware of that. I've been able to help in very small ways.
I've never even heard of those folks, so I'm glad you talking about it, because
I just saw this stuff was unfolding really quickly, and I thought, well, I've got to make some noise. And so about a month ago, and you might like this, right? Because every time I talk to you, I've always said, one of the most important things that people need to do is talk to their federal MPs.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is how it can work.
Yeah.
So I put together just a really rough outline of, instead of buggerising around with visas, we need to get in there and do what's called a non-combatant evacuation operation.
Yes.
And this is a really standard thing. This is something, again, your followers will know this stuff. It's something that the Defence Force and Foreign Affairs are trained to do.
Right, so we're capable of
some
it.
Of your followers were. I spent a big part of my career with my bags packed.
Yep.
At short notice to go and do exactly this thing.
Yep.
So I was watching this unfold, saying, "What the hell's going on? Why aren't we going in there and getting these people out?" And part of the reason for that is what's obvious to me is really crappy, high-level advice from senior ADF people.
Oh, surprise.
Yeah, surprise. So I thought, well, bugger this. I'm going to put a bit of an outline plan together. And what I wrote's not rocket science. Anyone who knows how this stuff works could have done it. So I wrote that, sent it to my federal MP, and I said, hey, can you please send this to the Prime Minister? And then a couple of days later, I get a reply from his staff saying, oh, we've sent this to the Defence Minister. So I thought, right, bingo, it's going somewhere. But over the last month, I still haven't seen any indication that sort of operation is going ahead. So in the meantime, we've had to make all this noise in the media and say,
right, I see, and that's not special though. So we've got a precedent to be able to do that.
Oh yeah, we've got a lot of precedents. So I'm not big noting myself because this is not unusual for ex-ADF people over the last 20 years. But I was involved in actual evacuation operations. So we did one in Fiji back, I think that was around 2006. Yep. And that's public. So it was called Operation Quickstep. And there's two parts to this one, right? So one of them was where there were indications that there was likely to be another coup in Fiji. And Fiji is a really popular holiday destination. There's a lot of expats live there as well. And the Australian government did the right thing. They said, right, we're gonna go in there and get as many people out as we can, just to be on the play it safe, on the safe side.
Exactly.
There's two parts to this. The first part of the plan was to fly a bunch of civilian charter aircraft over there to the big holiday sort of destinations. Get people out, whoever wanted to get out. And as it turns out, that wasn't really needed, but it was good because it was proactive, and it was use a precautionary principle, put a plan in place to get people out if they need to get out. So that was the first part of it. The second part of it, and this is really tragic actually, but there was a contingent of SAS and Black Hawk helicopters embarked on a group of Australian Navy ships, headed out across the Pacific, prepared to, if necessary, go and evacuate VIPs, whether that be from the embassy or other parts of the capital. And as you probably remember, and some of you guys will remember, that went really pear-shaped because they were doing on-board rehearsals with the Black Hawks, so basically launching the Black Hawks, going for a quick flight, turning around, doing a landing, do the same thing again. And in the middle of all that, one of the Black Hawks basically crash landed on the deck of the ship. Literally bounced
tragedy
off the deck, went over the side into the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
And luckily, and this is miraculous for most of these guys, most of them actually got out. But there were three who were killed. So one of the pilots was killed.
Yeah, and we talk on Kaz's channel about the sort of training that kids can expect when they're joining up. And Kaz talks about this training in a helicopter in the water that they have to do. That's terrifying, but that's why they do that, so there's a reason for the training. It can get real.
The other thing that I'll say about this, about why I'm so frustrated now is we know in the Defence Force, this is what we do.
Yes, exactly.
Even with the training, this is why people join the Defence Force.
Yes, exactly. To help people.
Literally put their lives at risk to help people get out of harm's way.
Send me, I'll go.
And this is an example. So we had three Australian soldiers lost their lives going on their way to
help
not only
someone.
To necessarily go and conduct
people.
this operation, but to be in a position where they were prepared to do it.
Yep, exactly.
And we lost 3 lives doing that.
So why can't we do that
15
now?
years later, buggerising around.
Yeah, why can't we do that now? Are there any barriers that you can see as to why we can't do that?
There's a whole bunch. I mean, I've touched on one of them. There's what I think has been some really bad advice at that level. But the other one that really gets my goat, right? And this came about when I was talking to a journalist, and she actually wrote a really good story in the Saturday paper going back a few weeks ago.
Okay.
So I'd started to make some noise, and some other people started to make some noise in the media about the need to go and do this. And this is a journalist. She actually went to Afghanistan.
Okay. Can you give us her name so we can give her some love and support?
Yeah, Karen Middleton.
Okay.
Karen Middleton is her name. So she wrote this story, but one of the good things she did, because she's a press gallery journalist.
Yeah.
She did a whole bunch of background.
Okay.
She spoke to senior level people in government, senior ex-Defence Force, current Defence Force people. And when you write a story like this, you can't divulge names unless people are prepared to go on record. But and it was quite a good story, but one of the little one-liners she included at the end was that senior government figures are saying, well, we don't want to do this because there might be some kind of electoral backlash.
What?
Why are we going into Afghanistan getting people out when we can't get other Aussies out of these other countries because of COVID?
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
For heaven's sake, exactly. But this is the good thing about working with good journalists. She managed to flush that out and put it on record in this article. So that gave me a target to aim for. It gave us a target to aim for. So that was the mindset we had to crack. So a lot of the media that we've been doing over the last few weeks has been to highlight how dangerous the situation is for these people.
Yes.
And how valuable they were to us during our war effort.
Yep, exactly.
And I guess to kind of bring things to where we are now, a really positive thing is that some of these people are arriving back home
and
safe.
That is fantastic. But what I'm wondering...
And I'm talking to these guys, it's wonderful.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you are. Because, I think most Australians, we are willing to accept the risk. Let's bring them here, because I know that there's a few people who even in my comments have said, well, I'm wondering if the politicians are worried about like a terrorism risk. And then they're following that up. We don't think there is, because we're thinking if they worked with us...
Well, this is a really good question. This is a really good question. And whoever made that comment,
yeah, it is a good question.
I'm glad they made that. And let me
I think it was Rob Kent. Yeah.
As well. This is a really important way that these operations need to be conducted. So right now there's people on the ground who are trying to get out, who are very legitimate. They're being put through the meat grinder with this ridiculous visa processing problem. Now let's say, hypothetically, that there are people who might want to exploit that, who are not the right people we want to bring back here.
Yep.
That's a very legitimate concern, so I have no issue with that. But the way that these operations are conducted is they account for that.
Yep.
So how they work is you don't just put them on a plane, fly them back here to downtown Sydney.
Right.
What you do is you do the immediate security checks and health checks.
Yep.
So you know they can't put a bomb on a plane.
No.
Right? But you put them on the plane, you get them to a third country.
Yes.
Right?
Somewhere
and we
safe.
Have bases.
Yeah, just immediate safety. Yeah.
Put them in a third country where they're safe.
Yeah.
And then you put them through the whole
process them there.
security vetting process where they're safe.
Exactly.
And if there are people who are trying to exploit it, that's where you pick them up. That's where you identify them, and that's where you say, you're on your own, get back on a plane.
Exactly, exactly. I think that's what we want to happen.
The whole way these operations are designed are to account for exactly that risk. So that was a really good question.
Right, yeah, exactly. Michael Stott has just said that he's thinking maybe one of the barriers at the foreign affairs level is that to conduct an evac, because he's been there, he knows exactly what you're talking about, is that to conduct an evac operation in Afghanistan may mean to gain a new permission from the Afghan government, like a new mission, new negotiation.
That's a really good question too. And this is where because I'm not talking directly to the defence people, I can only speculate, but I will speculate. It's a really good question. That might well be the case. But there's a couple of other things to consider here. The first one is because we still have a military presence in Afghanistan, there's already an existing kind of legal and diplomatic framework.
Yep. And
part of that existing framework is that we all already have a duty to protect civilians who are at risk, who previously worked for us. And that duty comes under written obligations that every country has in accordance with the relevant parts of international humanitarian law.
Yep.
And in 2015, there was a new set of policy guidelines that was put together by various government departments. So the Defence was one of them, Foreign Affairs and Trade was one of them, Federal Police, all these other different agencies which go and these are the same people who conduct these sort of operations. They produced a policy guideline for protection of civilians under these circumstances, and this is how serious it is. One of the obligations that you have under your duty to protect civilians is to take, quote, all necessary means, unquote, including the use of force if you need to.
Yeah.
So it's not just a question of, okay, well, go and get on a plane and if the bad guys are there and they tell you to go away, you go away. No. You can use
force to do that. Yes, exactly.
To protect people. You can use force to target, in this case, Taliban, who are threatening the lives of civilians. This is exactly what it's all about.
Yeah, and that's why we're the really good guys. So
maybe there is a sort of diplomatic hurdle to overcome. I mean, there will be one way or another. You can't just lob into a...
No, exactly. We can't just rock up and... Yeah, exactly.
So there would definitely need to be that, at the very least, even if there's an existing legal framework, there would definitely need to be that dialogue. But again, this is designed into how these operations are conducted, because usually they are led by a diplomat, by a foreign affairs official.
Okay.
And whatever the Defence Force and other agencies would do is directly supporting that civilian-led operation.
Okay.
So that's a crucial part of this as well. But yeah, really good question.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm, you know me, I'm really quite naive about all these matters and things like that. But from my perspective, right, we are the good guys because we go and save people from terrible regimes like the Taliban. And it's very frustrating for me that these folk wanted them gone too. We're on the same side as them.
Here's another thing that I've been saying in the media a lot. So we know, and I think everyone who's served in Afghanistan or people in the Defence Force or their families, we all accept, hey, we deployed over there, we gave it a crack. Yeah, there was a lot of mistakes, but the people on the ground, at the tactical level, we did really good stuff.
Exactly.
The Defence Force was never defeated tactically. It was a lot of strategic blunders.
Yeah. And
yes, there was some mistakes were made.
Yeah.
Yes, we gave it a crack. Yes, it's time to come home. But this is my big frustration, okay? if we're going to come home, let's do a professional job.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, let's finish professional. Let's
finish
not leave
well.
these people back there to be slaughtered.
Yeah.
Let's get back in there now.
Yeah.
Do a really, and we look, in my opinion, and I know I'm biased, right? But this is informed bias.
Yeah.
This sort of operation, right, in my opinion, the Australian Defence Force is probably the best in the world at doing this stuff.
I agree.
Going into a conflict zone, doing this sort of evacuation operation. But we're not starting from scratch here. The people who would be doing this are people who have spent years, in some cases, in exactly these places. They know these people. They get back in there, do what they're trained to do. I'd be on the plane myself.
Yeah, exactly. And there'd be
I'd
plenty
be
of
jumping on there and, squeezing back into my body.
Exactly. Squeezing back. It's exactly why Kaz and I,
training on my, on my kit.
Exactly. We have that. Yeah, exactly. We'd all go. We have the same sort of bias, Kaz and I. We both believe Australia is the best small army in the world, and that when we do things, we do them professionally, and that is like down to the diggers on the ground and the folks doing the work on the ground. Not so much current leadership, but I think here's a real chance for them to step up and win some brownie points back with folk like me who's a bit cynical.
We could make this such a... I mean, look at the news coverage just in the last couple of days of some of these people arriving home. Can you imagine? Like, this is my big frustration, with our senior defence leadership at the moment. There's been so much bad press, and they've been directly responsible for this. Basically, I will swear. So they've been shit canning.
You're allowed to here.
Their own defence force for years.
Yep, exactly.
Here's a chance where we could turn this situation into a huge triumph.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling about this. We could go back in there, do such a professional job of looking after civilians who work for us, put the capabilities and the professionalism of our defence force on the world stage and show the world.
Let them shine.
Show the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Show the world how good our defence force is.
Exactly.
Show the world how Australia looks after our own.
Yeah, exactly. And because
we can do it in a heartbeat.
Exactly. We pride ourselves, and I think it was Jackie Lambie who brought in the word mateship to it. Yeah. Well, that's part of we may be a young nation, but that is intrinsically woven into our fabric is mateship. And if we fail to do this,
we have, look at the people, a lot of people won't fully appreciate this, but Australia has a really long and deep historical connection with the Afghans.
We do.
Right?
Yeah.
It goes back 170 years, and the Afghan community in Australia, part of the sort of whole Afghan diaspora.
Yeah, how are they feeling?
Is a really, really good, wonderful part of the fabric of sort of
exactly, which also goes way, way back, exactly. I mean, as far back as we go in Australia. So how are they feeling, the Australian community, Afghan community here? How are they feeling about this?
Oh, look, it's just such an emotional rollercoaster. There's so many layers to this. So one of the really positive things is that a lot of the work that different people have been doing in the media, we've been comparing notes and saying, hey, you talk about this, we can talk about this.
Yep.
So we're all singing off the same sheet of music about, yes, we need to get these people out.
Yeah.
But the next big question is what happens to Afghanistan? What happens to the women and the children?
This gets me, Stuart. This gets me because I am I have been known to be a campaigner for women's rights, and I believe that where the fight is nowadays is not so much in microaggressions in our own nation. It is in helping these women in these nations, because the Taliban were incredibly vicious, evil, wicked, cruel to women for the tiniest indiscretion, like the tiniest wearing nail polish. Yeah, let's fill a football stadium and make a show of it. They were awful. This is stuff you wouldn't even want to know about.
And let me share you one aspect of this frustration.
Yeah.
So our Prime Minister announced our troop withdrawals back in mid-April. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then about 6 weeks ago, our Foreign Minister, Maurice Payne, rocks up over in Kabul and visits the President, and then sort of she makes all these very grand public assurances in front of the media that Australia is going to stand by Afghanistan, and we're going to commit to, civil society, and we're going to continue to provide aid, and blah, blah, blah. That was 6 weeks ago. Gets back on a plane, comes back to Australia. 2 weeks later, Australia is the first country to close its embassy in Afghanistan and bail. And this is here's the thing. Here's a particular thing with Afghan culture is Afghans have been through so much.
Yeah, so much.
They've been through a ringer for a long time that their expectations of Western society are already really low.
Yep.
And so when you talk to an Afghan, they know that. There's like this expectation, a bit like an abuse survivor. This is,
yep.
You'll be able to relate to this.
Yep.
When you've been subject to abuse and you've been let down and people have made promises that they haven't delivered on, your expectations are like really close to zero.
Exactly.
But the way to earn the trust of an Afghan is say, look, I'm going to promise you nothing. I'm going to give it my best shot. I'm going to try. I'm going to try my best, and we'll see how we go.
Yep.
And if you deliver on what you say and say, I'm going to give this a shot and try my best, whatever positive thing comes out of that, well, great. We'll all sort of give each other a hug at the end, and
exactly.
Be wonderful. So their expectations are very low. These are the sort of people you want to promise small and deliver big.
Yeah, because we want them here.
Other way around. Goes over there on the world stage, we're going to stand by the people of Afghanistan.
Yeah, sure.
2 weeks later, bail.
Till the cameras are off.
High and dry.
That's it. That's like a
opposite.
Maurice special.
And then Australia was the first to cut and run for the exit.
Yeah,
it's absolutely shameful.
Yep,
absolutely shameful.
Yep, Maurice special. Do a Maurice because
I couldn't believe watching this unfold. It was just.
She's not particularly popular in the veteran community. I can assure you of that. But we want them here. We want them because, as far as we're concerned, they are our mates. We want to teach them how to.
I'm talking to.
Now,
you know me. I'm passionate about giving the average bloke or the average Sheila a fair crack and giving them the say. But to give you an example, right? So the people I'm talking to now, some of these people have got postgraduate level.
Yeah, exactly.
They speak 4 languages.
Yeah.
One of the guys who managed to arrive with his family in Brisbane a few days ago, he's got a civil engineering degree.
Yeah.
He gave up 10 years of his life to work as a combat interpreter.
Bless him.
Mainly with special forces soldiers right across the country.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can imagine what that entails.
Yeah,
he gave up 10 years of his life to do that.
Exactly right. I think if people
his visa application bounced around for years, finally managed to get out there. And you know what he's talking to me about the last couple of days?
What's this?
He's saying, hey, I want to brush up on my engineering stuff so I can be an engineer.
Oh, you see, these are going to be valuable assets to Australia because they don't want to leave their home. What they wanted was the Taliban out, and that didn't happen. We couldn't do it. Okay, fair enough. That's how it went down. They don't want to leave, but it's surely imperative that we help them. They have the same mindset as us. They think that's shit too.
We're brothers, like seriously. Like the bond that we have. I mean, this is not a guy who I worked with. So I started talking to him, when he was in Kabul a few weeks ago, and
he's safe now, is he?
One of the reasons I was talking to him, because he's really well educated, has worked with Australians, so he gets my Aussie
good
and some of my slang.
Yeah,
and his understanding of what's happening right across Afghanistan is really good.
Yeah.
So that's why I started to
exactly.
chat to him.
Because
it's like
we need these folk in our community.
These are people. If I ran a business, let's say I ran an engineering firm, I would dip into my pocket I would pay for whatever additional study he needs to.
Yep,
I would make him the bloody CEO of my company.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be an asset.
These are people you want because they're motivated, they're honest, they're hardworking.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll do anything, and they appreciate the things that Australians just completely
exactly. We do take a lot for granted. And from an Australian perspective, I would want to say to him, welcome home. We know it's not your home, but this is our home. I am, you are, we are all Australians, so we're all got here. It doesn't matter how you got here, but you're Australian now. And,
these
welcome
guys were Australians
home.
in my opinion.
Yes.
When they started standing side by side
I agree.
with us
overseas
and with rounds coming downrange.
Yep, I agree. I agree. We may have to wind it up for today, Stuart. I did have some other questions I was going to ask you, but maybe if you're not too busy in the next couple of weeks, maybe you can come back, because we were talking about drug trials and things like that the other day in a stream, and we actually were thinking about maybe starting a letter writing campaign. We just weren't sure who we should be writing to, and we had some folk had some questions about where they might find their drug trial documents. So perhaps when you
how about send me an email with all the questions you've got, and we'll come back to the next as soon as I can.
That'd be fantastic. Hang on, Keely has just said we had a lovely Afghan interpreter here in our suburb who was safe but returned home despite the risks because his family could not be helped, and that is very sad.
That's tragic, isn't it?
And what are we doing with their families? Sorry, just out of interest, that just before we get out of here, are they?
A lot of them have made it over here with their families, which is a really good.
That is a good thing, because to leave their women there alone, and I know that might sound old-fashioned to some folk, but we're talking about the Taliban culture. That's
the Taliban will go after them.
Frightening. I appreciate you so much dropping in. Now, again, if there's any lawyers watching, like what I'm really worried about is how do we get help to them to fill out these forms? Because Michael Stott made a comment earlier in the chat about how some of these forms look more difficult than filling out a DVA form. So how do we?
40 pages long. Some of the questions are just ridiculous.
Is there any way that we can, if there's lawyers watching that can help?
One of the other guys last night, I posted a screenshot of this chat.
I saw that tweet. Yeah.
It was like, he messaged me a little bit out of. I hadn't spoken to him for a few hours. He said, "Hey sir, what country would you not return to in the world because your safety was at risk?" I said, "What?"
Yep.
He said, "What?" I said.
So that's what they're asking them?
I said, "Why are you asking me this?" And he said, "This is one of the questions on this form." I said, "That's ridiculous. It's Afghanistan. You're in Afghanistan. You're in hiding."
Yeah, I mean...
this is just the silly questions.
Yeah, exactly. So if there's any lawyers watching, maybe they could maybe even...
I'll tell you what, the best thing, if you are a lawyer, or even if you're like a paralegal, or even just someone with, savvy filling out forms and cross-cultural stuff, get a hold of an organisation I mentioned before, Forsaken Fighters.
Okay, Forsaken Fighters. I'll put a link in the description below to them, because
you put a link?
I have a link to your Twitter.
They need a lot of help.
Yeah, I have
on deck for those guys.
All right, I have a link to your Twitter in there as well. So maybe if people click on that link, would you be able to maybe post something, just like a link to them on your Twitter, just to make it for folks who want to check it out right now after we get off of here. Keely says, "Thank you so much for today, Lauren and Stuart." You are very welcome, folks. It is always
my pleasure too. You guys are my friends, so I can just say what I want.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to worry so much down this side of the tracks. We're pretty.
Say the S word.
That S word we can say. But yes, if we could have you back, whenever you're free. I understand you're a very, very busy man. We are always honoured that you come here down to our side of the tracks, and it's always a pleasure. And as always, would you like to say goodbye to my folks in the chat before I get on with my usual little spiel?
Fantastic. Thanks very much, guys. Keep spreading the word about this about Lauren's channel. We want to get our plates off, but then we want to slowly take over the YouTube world. Love talking to you guys, and can't wait for our next chat.
It'd be fantastic. As always, guys, it's been wonderful to share a small smoko with you. Please leave a thumbs up below the screen. Subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to ding my little bell for notifications of my future uploads. Consider sharing the community. Consider sharing this subject. Maybe just start a conversation with someone at work or something about the Afghan interpreters, because, you know, if we all start just talking about this with the people that are coming into our lives, it may make a big difference, and then maybe we can all push together to make sure that this happens. Yep, they're all saying bye, Disco Stew. So we'll see you all later,
God,
guys.
I'll live that down now.
No, not around here anyway. Okay, guys, we'll see you later. Love and kisses. Bye. Have a good day. Be good. Bye. Okay.